Welcome everyone to another episode of Are You There, Ghost? It's me, Chiwan. I'm your host, Chiwan. And today I'm so excited to have multi-award winning poet, essayist, author of The Best Barbarian and Dark Days and King Me. And he's won all the awards and has graced the cover of Poets and Writers magazine like the supermodel he is. So please welcome Roger Reeves.
Thanks,
How
Chiwan.
you doing, Roger?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me on the show.
Hey, thanks for taking time from your residency in Italy to join me. Are you working on anything specific out there, or?
Yeah, I'm working on poems. Obviously, always working on poems. And
For a new book?
yes, yeah, or just poems. Hopefully they
Yeah,
go to a book. But I just like being in the poem, really. Um,
yeah.
and working on some fiction, trying to finish something up there. So maybe it's some new essays, ideas. But I'm just out here, just writing, reading.
Is fiction new territory for you, or is that something you always done
No,
also?
no. It's funny is the first time that I ever sort of won something as a writer was for fiction in college.
Oh,
Oh,
for real?
really? Yeah, I was first if you would have talked to people when I was an undergrad, maybe they would have thought of me as a fiction writer. So,
Ah.
I love fiction. I think I got a little scared off of it from my MFA program.
Wait, did you do your MFA in poetry or fiction?
In poetry, but at the Michener Center, you have a secondary genre. And
Ah,
secondary genre was poet. It was fiction, and I also write plays.
uh,
So I just think writers write. So I like to just whatever comes,
right?
write it.
The most confusing thing when I first saw Poets and Writers magazine, I was like, wait, don't poets write?
Poets writers, poets not right.
Yeah.
It's
It's like, what am I doing with my life?
like we just touch the paper and the words appear or something. It's
Yeah. Hey, what's the day been like in Italy with the Pope passing and everything?
and that's it's really interesting to be here right at this moment. That was
Uh,
I knew something was up because I think I heard more. There's a lot of churches in Grianti,
uh,
in the area. Like every town has maybe a few chiesas, old churches with these big, beautiful bells and bell towers. And I was hearing bells this morning, but not at the half hour mark.
uh,
And I said, "Oh, that's
wow.
because yesterday, because it was Easter, there were so many bells. It was really kind of beautiful. It was like bells all day."
Mm.
And so I knew something was up by all the bells. But it was really interesting because they canceled the soccer games for Serie A for their
Oh,
professional.
oh, wow.
Yeah, everything kind of stopped. And uh, I don't know. I was on my run today and I was thinking about the Pope's last sort of message, sermon,
Yeah.
and before he died, which is, just crazy that he gave it. But I was just I respected him for some of the things that he sort of championed, even in those last moments.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a different being.
Is it? Yeah, it is a trip. I'm like not a big fan of the Catholic Church
Me neither.
or popes in general, but then I go, I guess he was a pretty good pope, as popes go.
It's as that type of power goes. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Now we're all imagining like, you know, all those behind closed doors mechanism happening like in the movies.
Yeah. I just saw that movie Conclave on the plane over. So the,
Yeah. You're like, mm-mm-mm.
I know, lock it down.
So it's been what, 3 years since Best Barbarian came out, or longer?
Came out actually. It's 2 years this month. 2 years. It
Two
came
years
out.
this month.
Yeah, it came out March 31st of 2022. Oh, so 3 years. So 3 years. You're right. 3 years. It's been 3 years. Sorry, I can't add. 3 years. 2025.
I've been meaning to ask this of writers, and I think I just recently started asking this. Like, how 3 years down the line do you still feel connected from the book, like to the book?
Mm-hmm. Uh, yes, but in a way that's almost like the way you might be connected to the first thing that came to mind is like graduating high school or graduating college, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the sense of like it's an experience you had, you really valued it. It's an important moment, and you look back on it. But at the same time, you're you're sort of looking towards the poems of the future or the poems of the
Yeah.
present. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm very grateful. I think the book still works on me. It still touches me. It's still there's moments where I'm just
Yeah.
I can't believe I did that. Like I can't believe I said that, or I was able to come to this idea. I was able to play with language in a certain way. I'm still sort of astounded by that. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
I'm also it's still something that's a little bit of the past.
Yeah. When I first saw the cover of your book years back, and I saw the title, I was like, I don't think I've ever heard the phrase "best barbarian" before in my life.
Yeah.
Where'd that come from?
Well, it came out of two things. I remember Solmaz Sharif had a poem where she said,
Mm,
"Bar, bar, bar, that's the sound of the barbarian," or something like that, right? So there was
yeah. 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 Yeah.
barbarian, like the term, and then I was thinking about this is gonna sound I'm gonna take you through a little I was thinking about these an African tribe in Africa called the Dogon. And
Hmm.
Nate Mackey in Splay Anthem talks about the Dogon a little bit as they believe that there were like drafts of the human, that the human went through several drafts, that it wasn't like the human that we know today is not the human that, right? So like may have had an extra arm, extra foot, the spirit may have been located differently, right? And so there's been all these drafts of the human. So I was thinking about that as like fugitivity, like like that's a fugitive form, like the human as fugitive form. And so I was
Yeah.
thinking about like so in that line in the poem, "Best Pearl, your best barbarian," right before it, it says, "Fugitivity is the best human." So fugitivity is the best human form, right? So I'm thinking about like the sort of idea of absconding, being unlocatable, being profligate, right? Being
Hmm.
a little derelict, right? The idea of fugitivity, right? And the barbarian art. So I was like, so the thing is like, best put on your best barbarian. So being your best barbarian, being anti sort of normative might be the best of the human, right? The human at its
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
futurist
Yeah.
flying into the future self, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. Man. Now I'm thinking about like the idea of us being drafts, you know, going, well, who's editing us?
Well, maybe we're editing ourselves. Maybe we like edit our.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Man, what a trip. As the the new poems you're working on sort of like build off of the book, or is it just like new ideas and new things you're going after?
It's so interesting because for me, I don't think about like books. I just think like one poem at
Hmm.
a time, right? Like I'm just like,
Hmm.
all right, what's the next poem? What's the next poem?
Yeah.
And so like I went through, it's been 3 years. So,
Yeah.
is being edited and you're
Yeah.
preparing it for about a year and a half. So you're still writing poems. And so I'm thinking about the poems that I've written over the last 3 years. And I'm always just listening for or sort of new sound. Like I was thinking about like Stevie Wonder, like album to album,
Hmm.
Stevie Wonder's a little different, right? He'll be like, "Oh,
Yeah.
my reggae moment, in my ballad moment, right?" And I'm just trying to hear a new sound and play with sound in a new way, or play with images in a new way, play with form, So I'm just playing, right? And so I'm
Yeah.
now, I think I have some poems, I have some things that are moving along, but I'm just really always just listening for something else and trying something else and being influenced by what I'm reading and sort of
Hmm.
conversation with that stuff, sort of thing. So yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
I guess there's stuff coming, but I don't feel like it's connected because it's still me. Like it's connected to the old book because I'm still that.
It's you. Yeah.
But I think I'm always trying to sort of leap a bit between books.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you feel like, do you ever feel, okay, I don't know how to phrase this properly, but sometimes I write something where I know it's not a great piece,
Mhm.
but I'm on a personal level, I just
Mhm.
feel so attached to it.
Mhm.
Do you ever get stuff like that?
You know, probably. but not in that same way. Like I'm very hard on myself and hard on my stuff in a way. So like if it's not
Mhm.
good, I'll just be like, oh, that ain't good. Right. But I can understand like what to think. So I really believe that like a poem, it's not about the poem you're presently on, but the way that poem takes you to the next poem.
Oh, yeah.
So we're always just sort of kind of drafting the same poem over and over and over again. Right. We'll just get
Mm,
further down the road, even if like this poem seems to be about fish and this poem seems to be about like the Pope, right? Or about
yeah,
fog, right? Or tercets into quatrains, right? You're trying to still figure out something about form, right?
yeah,
Or how do I write a type of political poem that's also like aesthetically offering us, right? Through the aesthetics, offering us other types of possibility, right? Because I think that's what.
yeah.
So I think I do probably get attached to poems, but also when I was younger, I didn't always trust that I knew what my best poems were. So I remember there are poems that people were like, "That's a really good poem," and I'd be like, "Oh, I didn't think that was nothing," right? Like I didn't think that was good. And you're like, "No, no, that's a really good poem." And so it taught me that I might not always know my best poems,
Mm,
and that even the poem that I might not feel like is really strong actually might be
mm,
doing some other type of work that I just
yeah,
see. Because truth matters. We're writing kind of at the edge of ourselves. We're writing at the like most we know, and then we discover through the poem, and we're constantly like pushing outward. So like if we're
yeah,
pushing the pen and sort of sitting rigorously with ourselves and sitting rigorously with what we're doing and writing poems, then often we might not know what we're actually doing.
yeah,
And we're just figuring
yeah,
we think we know what's good, and then like 2 years later, you're like, actually, that was a really good poem. Or actually that wasn't as great as I thought it was. So uh,
yeah. The other, like at AWP, I had my book event, and I was reading a poem from it that I hadn't read out loud before. And I
mm,
swear to God, I finished reading it, and then I looked up and went, "Man, that was a pretty good poem."
I totally feel I
But it was I never felt that before at a reading where I was surprised that I was like, "Yeah, that was really good."
well, that tells me you were there in the poem, right? Like, what I mean is you were attending to the poem,
Yeah.
like, you were
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
experiencing it, and, like, I think that happened to me in Best Barbarian. There was when I read it and proved some of the stuff, I was like, "Oh my god, I did the thing that I wanted to do. Oh, like, and it made me, like, really emotional because I was like, "Oh, I didn't realize I had done it. I'd always wanted to do this, and I actually did it." Because when you're in the middle of it, you can't see it.
Can't see it at all.
You can't see it.
Yeah.
You just have to keep moving through language, moving through whatever you're moving through.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Do you remember, like, the first time you wrote something where you were like, "Man, that was pretty good?"
I do. I do. I think I was 27. I remember writing a poem where I was like, I always say it gets really quiet when I'm in those moments. Like all of a sudden I finished and I was like, whoa. Like you just know that you like did something and then I didn't have that feeling again for like another year. Another year of writing poems, and then I had it again. Oh wow. Like so yeah, I've had that moment. But again, I love how still it
Yeah.
feels like
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it was still.
Well, let me ask you, like, since you're in Italy and stuff, like, does geography and location impact what you're writing and how you're writing it?
Yes, definitely. I am definitely like affected by geography and affected by the sun or the lack of it, by fog,
Mhm.
the lack of it. Here in Italy, what's interesting is I live in Texas, so we have a lot of where I live in Austin, there is still quite a bit of the natural world and a lot of birds, right? Here,
Mm.
birds are so much louder and all day. And so like it's just been really interesting they almost sound amplified. The bird song sounds almost like they're like tweeting into a microphone
Oh, wow.
loud. And it's like it feels like it's surrounding you.
Yeah.
And so it's really interesting to like the birds here. I've just been like, trying to figure out the birds and the plant life. I'm really I do this thing wherever I go, I run in that place immediately. I take a run.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
and it's really interesting because you immediately sort of get the feel of the air, you get the feel of the topography, you get to know things, you get to see things in ways that you wouldn't see it in a car. Um,
Mhm.
and so yeah, geography is it's even affecting form. It's even making me think of like, oh, what type of stanza do I want to be in?
Oh, wow.
What type of way
Yeah.
the line? Yeah, yeah. It's making me like move into the page very differently.
Yeah. And we were talking about, the Pope and all that. Like, how does that part of a place like impact you, if at all?
She like today I was finishing a run and I was thinking about the Pope, what he petitioned for in his last sermon. And it was like, it's really interesting to be here experiencing that, to experience his death
Mhm.
in the country and not that far,
Mhm.
right? Only it's about 6 hours away from where he died. And so I felt like gratitude in a way. I don't know, like,
Mhm.
and yeah, culturally, you do feel things differently here. It's
Mhm.
really interesting to see the Muslim population here and to be sort of encountering, uh, like North Africans right out here as a black,
Mhm.
you know, American. So it's been in children actually also like running upon children and seeing them play. That has been effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. All of that affects the way you're thinking. But yeah, been very interesting culturally. Even though I'm on a residency and I'm like kind of tucked away. Uh,
Yeah.
but I went into Como on Friday. I'm gonna go into a few other places, like Bellagio or get down to Milan.
Mhm.
Just see what I can see.
Yeah. Were you raised in a religious family?
Very religious, very religious. I grew up Pentecostal. Mother was
Mhm.
choir director and head of the youth program, and I grew up cleaning the church, in the church, playing music in the church. Thought my calling was to be a minister when I was very young. I
Oh, wow.
sermons as a teenager. Yeah, so very much grew up
Wait, where was this at?
in southern New Jersey, in a little small.
Okay.
I grew up in a little small town called Mount Holly, but the church was in Willingboro, which is a few towns over in Burlington City. And so I grew up. Yeah, I grew up super churchy, fundamentalist, Christian.
Yeah, my dad's a retired pastor, you
Oh,
know.
oh, for real?
Yeah, and he used to have his church like used to meet in our living room in our apartment, you
I used
know.
to go to churches
So
like that. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's, yeah, it's such a strange life.
It is where you have the folding chairs, everybody come in, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
were
yeah.
you raised like
Oh
like that? Was it like Pentecostalism or was it like
no, I mean, we grew up in a Presbyterian household, but when we were living in South America when I was a kid, it was like super like everybody speaking in tongues
yeah,
all the time type of thing.
that's what
So,
I'm doing.
just yeah, growing up in that environment. Do you think it's affected your writing?
Oh, 100%. The power of the word, and like the spoken word, particularly in the way the word can transform lives and move and
Yeah.
or make people feel things. 100%. And even I try to play with glossolalia sometimes, right? The idea of like speaking in tongues. I try to put that in poems like nonsense, like the use of nonsense to make sense to create feeling just through sound, right? Through words.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's where my penchant for like repetition and stuff in my poems came from, just listening to sermons.
True, man. And even like like I was telling some folks, there was this time in our church where they were singing this one word song, and it was just like yes, we are just saying yes, yes, and then they were like yes to your will, yes to your way, Lord, yeah. Like it was just like, and then people would improvise a little, but it was just like the one word yes, right? And sometimes it would be like it's super meditative, right? And people would sing for
Yeah.
15, 20 minutes, just yes.
Wow.
And I
Yeah.
feel like, wow, that's an amazing sort of moment, right? Like, you think about how might you do that of home, create that sort of meditative, transformative space,
Yeah. 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 Growing up in Pentecostal church, did you see a lot of like weird, wild things?
Yeah, I mean, well, I don't call it weird or wild, I just think it was like,
Yeah.
it was what was feeling. What you were witnessing was the manifestation of feeling.
Uh-huh.
It's performance, like, and people perform their feelings in all types of ways.
Yeah.
People dance, people cry, people rock side to side. There's all sorts of ways of manifesting feeling. I thought that was really, really beautiful. At times it was scary, to be honest with you. At times it got really, really, because you're watching people in like the throes of passion and ecstasy, almost, and not almost, always sort of unmitigated, without mask, right?
Yeah.
The mask is, if there's mask, it's the performance, right? And so you just watch people.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was. I grew up with like watching all types. People catching the Holy Ghost, people speaking in tongues. I myself did it. You know what I mean? So it was, and it wasn't fake. One of the things is, sometimes you go to places like my church was really sincere. Like, it wasn't happening every week. People weren't speaking
Mhm.
like just randomly. Sometimes people walking down the grocery aisle speaking in tongues. It wasn't anything. You know,
You're like, dang it, it's just cereal. Just ah.
exactly. But it was, what it was really kind of was about was like the beauty of spirit and the beauty of like desire and wanting
Yeah.
change. And Sunday being the first place that one could maybe acknowledge and begin to like reach for the change one wanted, no matter how.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you had to act wild, to go after it.
Yeah. 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 No, that's a great way to put it. It's funny, like one thing that out of the many things, like one thing that has really stuck with me and impacted my life is that this idea of, oh, there's a whole other level of existence that's not just my body,
Mhm.
just being and so it's like when I would see ghosts and stuff and like, oh, it's a ghost. It wasn't like anything I was like, what is that?
Yeah, that's the way spirit is. It should feel natural. It's part of the world, right?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
That encounter should just be like the way me and you talking.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you ever move away from church or is it still part of your life or?
Oh, I definitely moved away. Yeah, it's so interesting. I moved away when I was about 20. I just
Mhm.
kind of fell out of the church for a whole host of reasons. I felt like, particularly the asceticism, that ascetic lifestyle didn't always wasn't great for you.
Yeah.
And it also, there was like ways in which I think they sequestered and sort of minimized love and potential ideas of love and ecstasy and being and like where we can be in the world. So around 20,
Yeah.
and it was a hard break, man, because like I was raised like believing in hell and believing like you were gonna go to hell and all types of stuff. And I just was like, well, I guess I'm going to hell because this don't work. If this way doesn't work for me. I can't do it. And so
Yeah.
for many years it was really tough with my mother and my family.
Mm.
Really interesting. Last year, I was asked to be the pastor in residence. So this past summer, I was the pastor in residence in the Grand Tetons at a little church that, yeah, there's a little called the Chapel of Transfiguration in the Grand Tetons in Wyoming. It's through the Episcopal Church. And through a friend of
Uh-huh.
mine, Holmes, who's a Episcopal priest and poet. And so I was out there. So it was really interesting to deliver sermons again, but I just really close read poems. I just talked about poetry. Talk about poetry and spirit.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that is the thing with poetry. It's just like it's not like, since we're not writers.
I like that.
It's this weird space between literature and almost like spirituality, I guess,
Mhm.
in a strange way.
It is. I totally agree. I also think there's something
Yeah.
about poems that do something communal and enact rituals of community,
Mhm.
whether they be elegies or even like the eulogy, right? Or people always
Right.
want a poem at their marriage, right? They want a poem at very significant moments of like passage of time, and when the community comes together to recognize some type of passage. So that to me, that is kind of spirit too, right? Like when we come
Yeah.
together and become something larger than we are individually, that seems like a notion of spirit, seems like a notion of a poem.
Yeah. 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 Hey, no wonder you got invited to be pastor in residence. It's like writer, poet, essayist, fiction writer, cover model, and pastor in residence. Hey, has there ever been sort of one piece of writing that not only like that you love and has stayed in your mind forever, but like that has really crawled under your skin and affects you
A piece of writing that I've made,
or somebody else that you read?
a piece of writing I've read that's really got under my
Yeah,
skin, like really.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm. You know, what's funny is I'm rereading Song of Solomon for the first time, in probably about 20 years.
Mhm,
And the first time I read it, I remember finishing it and crying. And it changed my life.
mhm.
Like that book, like I was like, whoa. Because of what the way she was just talking about like men and growing up black and being a man. It was just that one got under me, that novel, like got and just stayed with me in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that I mean there's poems that have done that too. Bridget McGee Kelly's The Dragon.
Oh, I don't know that poem.
Oh, it's such a great poem. It's just a poem that's just like so masterful and beautiful and made in this way that's disturbing. It's just a poem that has taught me how to really think about like how to write big, beautiful, lush things that are
Oh,
moving towards mythology, playing with religion. Like it's a poem where everything is in it. She doesn't leave
yeah.
tradition or anything she's encountered out of it. That's what I love about like writing when like everything the poet has encountered or the writer has encountered, the novelist is there and they leave nothing from their pen. They leave nothing outside. They allow all of it to participate and make their poem. And so that's sort of it's underneath in that really beautiful way.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they stay alive and they stay alive like in your body. Like for me, the single most impactful piece that I pretty much think about every other day, ever since I first read it was Aimee Césaire's Notebook on a Return to a Native Land. Like to me, it's the single greatest piece of writing I've ever read.
That's one I've read so many times. I love it. It's like you just started from line one and you almost can't stop. You do.
Yeah,
You have to read
yeah.
it.
From like you're in it in line one. You're like, oh, I'm in.
Yeah. That's such a great piece. Oh, I love that. Oh, that's such a great. Have you ever read Solar Throat Slash? Is like the book. It's like Clayton Eshelman is a translation of it. It's the one that he highly, highly like expurgated when he was moving into his political career, and then they
Mm,
restored basically what it should have been. It's kind of like like I would compare it to like Maxie Hughes's Panther in the Lash when after because Panther in the Lash is
oh
like
wow.
Hughes is like really, really sort of communist, Marxist book that like because he was caught up in the HUAC stuff, he had to expurgate.
Yeah,
Right. But
yeah,
Solar Throat Slash by Aimee Césaire, he has this poem that I've written about. This is another poem that gets underneath called Preliminary
yeah.
Question.
Okay.
You should check it out. It's really, really
I'll definitely will.
uh,
Yeah.
it's like it I guarantee once you read it, you'll be like, yeah, that's up there with all More.
Yeah, yeah. So obviously this show is about talking about our experiences with not just ghosts, but things that we can't explain.
Mhm.
And I think for me, it's like I always tell people my very first memory in life is a ghost,
Mhm.
which is like a strange thing to have as your first memory.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I've been thinking of writers as also as like maker of ghosts,
Mhm.
right? Because
Mhm.
like we're talking about right now, they stay with us so much. Have you had experiences like that, whether in the church or outside or
Yeah, I think it's so funny because I think of like spirit in these many different ways, right? Like I think like we have spirit, right? Like our
Yeah,
spirit,
yeah, yeah.
right? And then there's also like spirits in other ways, like the spirit of something you can feel, you can touch, you can see it moving, right? And so, yeah, I mean, I've had really wild encounters. Not wild. I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't want to make them. I don't want to make a spectacle of them, if that makes sense. But like,
Yeah.
I've been in Savannah, Georgia, and had some experiences in old houses with seeing things and seeing, asking people, "Oh, is that? Did y'all see that woman walk right there?" And they're like, "There was no woman there," and I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, I saw a woman there." Um, things like that, or in Cuba, Havana was really. I was having
What happened?
just. There's a lot of like, uh, sort of spirit. I don't know. I think Shango is. You know Shango, the Yoruba deity. There is a.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. There's. I think Shango is quite palpable there, and I was just having these experiences of seeing lots of signs that were pointing me towards certain things at that time. And it's hard to explain.
Mm,
It would literally be signs. It'd be like stuff on walls and things, and I would turn into an alley and I would meet people and I would have these encounters. And living in Atlanta, spirit was really like you feel it's really hard to move about Atlanta and not feel the forms of the enslaved around you.
mm,
Right. Or maybe the experience that is most that I've written about is it's actually in Dark Days. It's about this cotton field in Charleston, South Carolina, at a plantation called the McLeod Plantation. And I was first invited to the McLeod Plantation in 2019 to give a reading, a poetry reading.
mm,
So
mm.
the thing is that my people, on my mom's side, are from South Carolina. So like that, we had basically sharecropped and been enslaved, not too far from Charleston. So I had grown up going to South Carolina, back and forth in New Jersey during the summers since I was little, before I could even probably remember,
Mhm,
I think, going back and forth. And so I was at this plantation called the Cloud Plantation, and there was a cotton field, and there was in this cotton field, they kept trying to it refused to bear cotton. It had been giving cotton for like 200 years, but in like the last few years before 2019, it just refused. They would try to sow cotton in the field, and it just refused to bear cotton, which I think is really interesting. Like,
yeah.
like so the field is like no mas, we done. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
nation, right? And by the cotton field, you also had the clapboard cabins that the enslaved live in, and then even the enslaved children and generations down the road lived in into the 1990s in these slave cabins. And there's a whole I write about these cabins and what happens to them and the sort of tragedy of that moment, which is, and I'll get back to the field with it. A lot of the folks that had been either enslaved or sharecropped the land of the cow plantation had asked when Mr. McLeod had died, and they had asked to be able to buy the cabins because their ancestors
Yeah.
had been in for hundreds of years, and they didn't do that. The city, for the preservation purposes, kept them. But there's this field, right? So I'm looking at this cotton field, right, out from these slave cabins. I write about it in an essay called "Through the Smoke, Through the Veil, Through the Wind" in Dark Day.
Mhm.
You looked at the field, you would see wind blow over it, and the wind would kick up the dust, and the dust looked like it was moving around the bodies of people that were hunched over, still in the field picking cotton.
Whoa.
So you would see the dust, and it would like kick up, and it would look like it wasn't moving just like up in a big dust
Yeah.
thing. It was like moving, looked like it was moving over figures. And I was like, whoa. And so I was like, it's almost as though the spirits were still there, but like their work, right? The evidence of their work, the evidence of their bodies was still in the field. And the wind and the
Uh-huh.
was like moving around it. They had been, so I said, it's like they were unimpeached from the land, despite them not being able to be on the land anymore. They were still there. So that to me was a moment of life, spirit, and this little If there's ghostly, like that to me was like they're there. They were there. They were still there in the field.
Yeah. Like when you saw that, I imagine it was all kinds of feelings going through.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, like it's overwhelming because you're like, oh my god. Like, but you just also realize that's a sort of archive. That's something being remembered that wasn't supposed to be remembered. Right. The
Ghosts as archives.
right.
Oh my, yeah.
And just like like they are there, and they were showing themselves to us or to me very much. And I was like, world. And so I immediately like felt so full. And it was just like, I remember, so after taking my tour of the plantation, being in the slave cabins and watching the wind move over the field and looking like it was moving over the bodies, right?
Mhm.
I get up to give this reading and I can do nothing but cry.
Mm,
I couldn't speak. All I could do was cry. And I just cried for like, I don't even know how long. I just cried.
man.
I just like wept. And it wasn't like I planned to weep. There wasn't a poem, but it was just like all I could do was weep. And I just wept and wept, wept. And eventually I stopped. And everybody just stayed with me. And we just like, and I just read 3 or 4 poems. And that was all I could get. And it was just,
Did you tell them what you saw?
I don't know if I told them then. I remember later that week trying to write a poem about it and that not working.
Mhm.
I just remember it was just what I really wanted to do was I wanted to make a movie of it. I wanted to take a movie camera and just sit it in one place, and just have the wind moving over and just watching the way the dirt moved over and picked up and moved over the bodies that were there, moved over the spirits that were there. That to me was the way I wanted it. If I could ever make that film, that's the film. Like a short 11-minute film. For some reason, 11 minutes of just,
Yeah.
you know, the dirty poverty
Yeah.
moving.
I mean, man, that's just you describing is such a stunning image in my head now.
It was wild.
But man,
It was a wild moment,
like,
people moment.
do you remember at all how you felt after you stopped sobbing?
Clean
Uh,
and thoroughly like inside of myself, like almost like I was seeping down into the earth. I just remember being very like, but
yeah,
also simultaneously.
yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, before that moment, like when you were going there and stuff, and you mentioned your family visited South Carolina. And all that. What what did it mean for you to do a reading at a plantation?
Well, I loved it because it was so subversive. And this is why. The last owner,
Mm.
obviously, of that plantation did not want no black reading no poems. So I actually loved it. Like for me, I'm like, oh, that's awesome, right? We're going to this plantation. And also the woman who brought me, her name was Catherine Sullivan. She's a great steward
Uh,
in Charleston, South Carolina. And she had created like with a bunch of Kave poets. I wasn't the only one that had come out there. Right? Tyree
mm,
had come out there, Terrence Hayes had come out there and read. A few other people had come out and read poems on the property. And so uh, to me, it was this moment of occupying America in ways that it never wanted me or my people to occupy. Right. So and I think of it as an occupation. You see what I mean? Like
yeah, 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 yeah,
it is exactly an occupation. Right.
yeah,
Crying on that field like that, me connecting in that way, me being vulnerable to like the North, like all of that was like, I don't know. To me, that's like that couldn't have been imagined. Like that's science fiction. If this was 1906 and someone was writing a book about 2019
yeah.
in South Carolina, I like to read
But
poems about race and like that's not they would that's not you can't have that's like that's science fiction, man. That's speculative, right?
yeah,
And him
yeah.
spirits in the field, like that's like what's her name? Oh, I can't think of the black science fiction writer I was thinking, but like I was Dessa Rosa. I can't believe I'm blanking on her name. late at night here. But yeah, that's science fiction, man. Like we were in a science fictional space. We were doing something else. So it's a weird thing, right? Like people want. I think people like this is the thing. The plantation isn't over, right? And I think there's a way in which we want to sort of turn it into a museum piece. When in actuality, we kind of it's open and live and active, right? It's
Yeah.
and it's and we have to figure out what we're gonna do with it, right? Because it's material at the end of the day. It's still
Yeah.
something that is to some degree uh, ongoing.
Yeah.
It's not fixed.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I was just thinking about you saying how subversive it felt and all that. Like,
And,
and obviously the spirits there approved to show you that.
mhm. And I went back there in 2021, the 2020, 2021 and 2022. I was back there, and it was we were taking I was doing an essay, and we took some photos and did some video that eventually was in Granta, uh,
Hmm.
in Granta, the British publication. Uh,
Hmm.
there's a guy named Raheem Fortune, an amazing Black and Native photographer. He was out there with me, and he's just phenomenal photographer. Young cat. I think he might be just turning 30 now.
And young, young.
Yeah. Like he was like 26, but he was 24. He was amazing, just amazing photographer, and I mean, like, also on the grounds across the street is the unmarked graveyard of the enslaved, where they would just throw formerly enslaved into the like woods and not cook mark,
Hmm.
or they bury them over there. So we went and made sure every time I go, I always do a little ritual to acknowledge them. Every morning I'm there, and I've been there a few mornings and a few times. I make sure I acknowledge all of the folks that have been there and what their struggles are, and I ask them for permission to be with them, hopefully be working with them in this way. Because I think
Yeah.
really important. I think
Yeah.
like yeah, I think they were there. I think they want me to do it. They want me to do this way.
Yeah. Yeah. And what an amazing story.
Wow. Yeah. If you ever get to Charleston, it's like 6 miles right outside the city. Just go to
Yeah.
it's yeah, it's transformative, that place.
Are you going to go back again?
Yeah. I would if I could, I would go back multiple times a year. I love it. There's a lot there. Like in the Plokes of South Carolina, real welcoming. I didn't really good folk out there. They have an African American History Museum out there now. Like people doing some really great work. I think Charleston and Savannah are two places that I would go regular. Savannah has another some live spirit, like lots of spirits happening, a lot of folks connecting to to the Black folks that have worked and made that land, what it is today.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, one of these days I'm going to be like, hey, Roger, you going there again? I want to tag along.
Definitely tag along, man. We have fun, man. Showing you some of the stuff go out there. Yeah, man. I know. Then I look. I'm from like west of that, rural west of that,
Hmm.
where it's just when you get out there, it's just dark. You know what I mean? It's not even country. It's cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I love that type of space.
All right. It's a date.
It's a date, man.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that amazing story and just for
Having-
the beautiful conversation.
Yeah.
How much longer are you out there
I'm
in
here
Italy?
in the residency until May 25th. And then I'm
Okay.
gonna stay a little while longer and just bump it around, like Rome, and then yeah, do some other things. See, while I'm here, I might as well see some things.
Yeah. Avoid the US for a bit. I know what you're up to.
Me and a little expatriate don't want to hurt nobody. Yeah, I'm trying to see what we can see out here.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in for another amazing episode of Are You There, Ghosts? It's me, Chiwan, and the amazing Roger Reeves. Pick up all his books, and just one of my favorite people in poetry. Like I always run into you at AWP, and it always makes me happy. I didn't get to see you this year, so I was like,
Oh,
ah.
I know I didn't see that. I felt like I was I think because I was like trying to write something to finish, trying to finish some things. I
Yeah.
was in the hotel room a lot. Um,
Yeah.
it's always good, man.
So
Good to see you. Thank
yeah.
you so much for this invitation and for the opportunity to have this conversation with you, brother.
Yeah, this was a beautiful. I'm gonna think about your story for a long, 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 long time.
Thank
So yeah. So yeah, that's it.
you. That's it.
Thanks everyone. Thanks, Roger.
I
Love you, man.
love you too, man.
All right. Peace out.